everybody. Hi at home. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Kids on Ice at Home. Today is the music edition, and I am Coach Leticia. Some of you may recognize me from skating classes in previous years. But today we're going to be talking about music, and I'm excited to get to share this other love of mine besides skating because they go hand in hand so well together. Skating and music, it's the perfect relationship, and I just love some of my favorite parts about skating is choreography and performing to music. So I'm really excited that I get to share music with you today. So we're going to be talking about some fundamentals of music and what music really is. So what is music? We hear it everywhere. It's on the radio when we turn it on. It's in the car. We ask our smart speakers to play it. It's in commercials. It is integrated so much into our everyday lives. We might not even notice when music is playing, but music is everywhere, and it has been a part of our culture. It's been how we share history, but how long has music been around? So music, and when we think of tones and sounds, may actually go back way before there was even time being recorded. But we think that the first evidence of music, like how we know it, actually dates back to the Neanderthal period, which is 40,000 years ago. The Neanderthals were thought to actually use music as entertainment. And here you can see an example of what is called a bone flute. They used bones to carve musical instruments out of. And historians have actually found these bones and used them to play music. And that's how they have come to find that they believe that music is 40,000 years old. So there is a language to music, much like picking up a book and reading the words on the page or picking up the newspaper. We have the language of music, and you can read music. And first, how we start reading music is we have a staff. This would be kind of considered like a sentence in a book, but our staff is a series of lines and spaces that will give our notes meaning. And on the staff, we will also have some other symbols that will also give our music further meaning and further definition. So this top sample right here, this is just a single staff. And then below here, this right here, that is called a grand staff. We have two staffs that are linked together. And this is very common in music that would have two parts, or your piano music, because you see a treble clef here, which is this at the top, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, and our bass clef. So in orchestrated pieces, you actually may have several staves linked together, and also in choral music where you're going to be having different parts. So there are more clefs than these two clefs, but these are the clefs that we are going to focus on for today. So this is our first clef we're going to talk about. This is our treble clef. Really fun to draw if you're a doodler, learning how to draw these. But this is also called a G clef, or could be known as a G clef. When we start talking about our note names, we're going to talk about how each line has a name. But you can see right here is circling a line, and that is our G note. So we know that is our G clef. So when we are looking at music and we have our treble clef, this is going to be for our higher notes. So if you are looking at a piano keyboard, this is going to be middle C all the way up and higher. So these are going to be for higher notes. Sopranos, your woodwind instruments are going to read your treble clef. And your pianos is going to be your right hand. This is our bass clef. This is going to be for your lower notes, and you can think of some instruments that actually have the word bass in them, like bass guitar, and tubas. It's going to be your lower instruments, and your baritone singers are going to be all reading in your bass clef, which is your lower notes. So on a piano, this is going to be your middle C, and this is going to be everything that's played with your left hand and our lower notes. So we have all all those notes are going to be on our bass clef. And so our clef tells us what notes we are reading on those lines. So another thing that lives on our staff is our time signature. A time signature looks like a fraction, and each number is going to give our notes purpose on that staff. So our top right here, you can see our top number here is a 4. That's going to be how many beats per measure that we get. And our bottom note, we can think of this as like a fraction, is a 4. And that's going to mean that our quarter note gets the beat. So we are going to talk about note values here, but our quarter note, a fourth, is going to get the beat in this 4/4 time signature. And so when I mentioned measures, a measure is a section of our staff that is going to have the required number of beats determined by the time signature. So you can see here, we've got a bar. So sometimes when people are talking about music, they're like, oh, let's play 3 bars. They're talking about measures, and it's divided by that bar. So going back to our 4/4 time signature, this can also be referred to as common time. It's got a very strong downbeat, quarter note gets the beat. This is what a lot of our pop music is written into because it's easy to follow, it's fun to dance to, it's got an easy rhythm. So here I'm going to play a pop song, I'm sure you know it, and we're going to count along into that 4/4 beat. We go together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So that's just a sample of our 4/4 time. You can really feel that downbeat in that. That's what makes it really fun to dance to. Here we have another time signature. This is 3/4. So again, our top note or our top number is our beats per measure, while our bottom is our which note gets the beat. So again, we're still with that quarter note, the 4, that gets the beat. And our top 3 beats per measure means that only 3 of those beats can fit in that measure. So remember, that's our designated space. So here I'm going to play a song that's in a 3/4. And this is going to give us more of a waltzy feel. So this song is actually a waltz that I'm sure you might not have even realized is a waltz. So this right here is in free time. I'm just going to pick right into the 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, say in the comments if you knew that was a waltz, because you get bonus points if you did. So we're going to now get to our notes that live on our staff. And this is going to be our whole note. And we can remember that our whole note is going to be our longest duration note. So in this slide right here, this picture is not in any time. So we don't have a time signature. We're just looking at the notes. And I know this is a whole note. So this is kind of funny how I remember that that is a whole note. It looks like a donut hole, right? So you got a donut hole sitting on there. You know, it's a whole note. This is our whole rest. Now, a rest is going to be for the same duration of the note, but it's silent. There is no sound during a rest. And I remember that this is a whole rest because if I was a little guy and I'm walking along this line right here, I'm going to fall right down into that hole. You see that it is sitting below the line. And that's important to remember because we're going to see another rest here soon that looks kind of similar. So remember our whole note, donut hole, and our whole rest, you're going to fall down into the hole if you're walking into that line. So here we have our beats per measure. And this right here is not a musical symbol. I just wrote this as a visual to help kind of guide and to see it in another way. But here in this pie chart, it's a pie chart, we have our 4 beats per measure. Okay, and our whole note is going to get all of the pie. It's going to take the whole measure, okay, because our whole note is longer than what gets the beat, because our quarter note right here is what gets the beat. In our 3/4 time, same thing, our quarter note is still getting the beat. So we can fit 3 quarter notes. We're going to talk about that, but we have our whole note, and our whole note is going to take all of those beats. So remember, our whole note is our longest note, and it's going to hold a long duration. Same for the rest. Next, we have our half note. Our half note looks like a whole note, a little bit smaller, but you're going to see that it has a stem. And here we have a stem that's going up and a stem that is going down, but they are the same exact note. You would read them exactly the same. The only difference is when we have our middle staff line, if they're below that, the stem is going to go up. And if they are above that, then the stem is going to go down. But they are exactly the same note. And then here we have our half rest. See, it looks similar to that whole rest. But how we're going to remember that this is a half rest, we see that it sits on top of our middle line. And if I draw a snowman right here, that looks like a hat. So our hat is going to be a half note. So that's going to help you remember that that is our half note. So in 4/4, we get 4 beats per measure. Our half note is going to take half of the pie. So in 4/4, we can actually fit another half note in that measure. And in our 3/4, our quarter note still gets the beat. So I don't want you to get too caught up in our 3 slices of pie, because that is our 3 beats, but our half note is going to take up 2 of those slices. So our 3 beats per measure, our half note takes up 2 of those beats. Here we go to our quarter note. And this is what in this time signature, because we have 4/4 and 3/4, this bottom 4 is which note gets the beat. So the quarter note is our driving beat for this. So in 4/4, we get 1 quarter note in each of these slices. So just 1 quarter note is going to take 1/4 of that. And in 3/4, since the quarter note is our beat, we can fit 3 of those in 3/4, and 1 quarter note is going to take up 1 slice. So in 4/4 time, our quarter notes are going to be on the beat. We're going to have ta, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in 3/4, we get 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the quarter note is our beat in that time signature. And here we have our quarter rest. I think it looks like a seahorse. I don't know. That can help you. I don't have any fun drawings for this one, but remember the quarter rest kind of looks like a seahorse. Here we have our 8th note. So our 8th note is actually smaller than our quarter note. And this is what gives us syncopated rhythm. And when we say syncopated rhythm, it gives us a beat on the offbeat. So we have, if we are conducting 4/4, we get our 1 and 2 and 1 and. So our 8th note in this is going to take 1 little slice of this pie, because 2 8th notes are going to fit into what would have been our quarter note there. Kind of looks like a half note, but 2 8th notes is going to equal our quarter note. And so in 3/4, since we can fit our 3 beats, we're going to have our 8th note is going to be 1 slice of that, and we can fit 2. So when we can fit 2 8th notes, that's when you're going to see them beam together like that, or you might see them with flags depending on where they are in the rhythm on the staff. So 8th notes with flags and 8th notes with beams, they're exactly the same, and they would be read exactly the same way. So here we have a chart of rhythmic values. So it's just kind of like a tree of what equals what. So we have our whole note, which is going to equal our 2 half notes. And then here we have our half note. This was half. And that's going to equal our 2 quarter notes. And then we have our quarter note, which is going to equal our 2 8th notes. And remember, these are the same. And then we have notes that get even smaller. So below here is about a 16th note. We're not going to worry about that today. We'll save that one for another day. So here we have come to a clapping exercise to see if we can follow the rhythms in time. want you to try along at home. I'm hoping by maybe the fourth one, you'll kind of get the hang of it. But I'm going to give you a count off, and we're going to try to clap the note. So remember our half note, we're going to count. We're only going to count on the beat, and then we're going to hold it for the number of beats. So if it's a half note, we're going to go 1, 2, and we hold it on 2. We don't clap. So let's go ahead and clap our first line. I'm going to count it off for you, and then we're going to clap along. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see here how this whole note got held for 4 counts. All right, we're going to move down to our next line. You see it starts with a half note. So again, we're going to hold that first note for 2 counts. So I'm going to count it off. I want you to try again at home. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How's it going? Is it going good? You guys getting it? I hope. We're going to try again. We got 2 more. So counting it off, we got our start with our quarter note. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. Okay, our next line, we start to see our 8th rest. So our 8th rest is going to be, our quarter rest is going to be completely silent. So it's going to be like holding our duration while we're clapping, but if we were playing a musical instrument, we would stop our sound at that time when we have a rest. So let's go ahead and add in these rests here. We see them in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th measure of this exercise. I'm going to count it off, give you a starting count, and we'll clap it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, how do we do? Put it in the comments. Let me know how you're doing. Okay, so now we're going to get to reading our notes on the staff. So our musical alphabet, 7 letters, goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts completely over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So when you're looking at a piano keyboard and you see all those keys and you're like, wow, that's a lot of notes. It actually is just segmented into little segments into our A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So when you break it down into smaller sections like that, it becomes a little easier to understand. And the piano is a really great tool to help learn music names because it gives a really good visual. So this is our alphabet. We actually do have half steps in between these notes. We have sharps that make our notes go up a half step and flats that make our notes go down a half step. But we aren't going to talk about that today. So that might be for another time. So we're going to learn mnemonic devices to help us remember what each of these note names are, because you look at it and you're reading lines and spaces, it can get a little confusing when you're starting to learn. So we're going to start here with the first line. And I'm going to talk about why we see some of these notes off the staff here in a second. But we're going to start here at this first line. That is going to be our note E in the treble clef. Remember, these are our higher notes. So we have the word, the letter E, and we're going to remember the word every. Our second line going up is a G, and we're going to remember good. Our third line is B. We're going to remember boy. Fourth line, D, does. And our top line is F, fine. Every good boy does fine. So if you remember that, you're going to remember your spaces, E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy does fine. And of course, the more you practice it, the quicker it will come. So now we're going to move to our spaces. Our spaces in treble clef, I think, are pretty easy because they're going to spell a word. So starting in that first space, we have the letter F. Our second space is the letter A. Our third space, the letter C. And our fourth space is the letter E. It spells face. So if you're reading music and you're getting lost a little bit, remember these little tools. It's going to help you remember, okay, I'm at this note and then you can go on from there. So also, while you see some of these notes that are off the staff, sorry, so like this note that's off the staff, or this one that's sitting right above that G, the alphabet repeats itself. So if you remember, oh, the top line is F, I know G comes next. So the mnemonic devices are just kind of to help you have some guide points as you're reading your music. So we have our bass clef. The names are different. So the clef changes the names of the note. And remember, these are our lower notes. So we're going to start with the first line again, and it's a G. Remember, great. Our second line is a B. We're going to remember big. Third line, D. Our fourth line, F, fight. And our top line is an A, and we're going to a lot. Great big dogs fight a lot. Not really true. I love dogs. I want to give dogs a bad name, but it'll help us remember our note names in the bass clef. So we have great big dogs fight a lot, G, B, D, F, A. And now our spaces, and this is a fun one. So our first space is A, remember all. Second space is cows. Our third space, E, eat. And G, grass. So our spaces, all cows eat grass in the bass clef. So if you're reading piano music, you're reading both the treble clef and the bass clef at the same time. So you can imagine how the quicker you can read it, the better you're going to get at your playing skills. So as a singer, I typically only read in treble clef. So this is our grand scale in a C major scale. And the reason I chose C major scale is no sharps, no flats, just note names. And you can see here at the top of our bass clef and the bottom of our treble clef, you see the letter C. That is the same C. It's the same pitch. So on our piano, that is middle C. And you can see where the notes fall in relation to the scale and how you hear them. So our next thing we're going to talk about is solfege. And this is a ear training method that helps musicians, if they don't have their instrument or you're just a vocalist, to hear a melody without actually playing it. So we study these words to help us learn the note relations on where we are in the scale. And you probably recognize this from The Sound of Music. And do is always going to be our bass note for that scale. So for the scale, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And that will help give us a relation. So I can always hear my do, 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 ti, do, ti, do. Or I can hear some chords, do, do, mi, sol. So that's what solfege is, and you can really learn into that and get really strong ear training to help learn that. So that is what that is when you hear that song from Sound of Music. It's called solfege, and it's actually a really useful tool. So we've come to the end of our educational part of the program, and so today I decided that I would sing for you because I have not really done that with all of you guys. You know me from the rink. So I have chose to do a song. It's an aria from an opera called O mio babbino caro. Actually, the opera is Gianna Schicchi. It's actually a comedy, but the song sounds very serious. But I chose this because it's very recognizable. Even if you don't know opera music, you have heard this. And it's actually in one of my favorite skating movies. So if you can kind of figure out what skating movie that is, you get bonus points. So I'm going to go ahead and sing that for you, and that will be the end of my presentation for today. So let me go ahead and start that. Oh, mio bambino caro, mi piace that concludes for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope we get to see everybody back in the ranks soon. Have a good day.